Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. I hope you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So this really is a quick preview for Zhilei Zhang versus Joyce 2. Not a prediction. I am totally unsure in regards to how I feel this fight will play out. First time around, obviously, Joyce lost to Zhilei Zhang by a 6th round TKO. His right eye was damaged due to the straight left hands of Zhilei Zhang. He couldn't miss with that shot throughout. After a while, it caused bad eye damage, and eventually the fight was stopped because of that, to some people's disagreements. And of course, that Zhilei Zhang win first time around was a bit of an upset, I would say. He was a fair underdog by the bookies. And yeah, most people were suspecting Joyce would win. Me, myself, I picked Joyce to win. I felt that Zhilei Zhang was a risky, kind of stay busy fight, because that's what it was really. Joyce was already the WBO mandatory going into that fight, and he wanted to stay busy against a guy who was decent, so he picked Zhilei Zhang, and it went badly wrong. I think going into that fight, I did say I was picking Joyce, but Zhilei Zhang had that banana skin type of vibe, like it could go wrong, and yeah, it went drastically wrong for Joyce. Defensively, he could not evade that straight left hand, and as soon as his eyes started to get bad, when he tried to move away from Zhilei Zhang's straight left hand, obviously Zhilei Zhang is a southpaw, when Joyce would circle away from the left hand, Zhilei Zhang then did a really good job at cutting him off with a right hook. So the eye injury really disrupted Joyce's game plan in that fight, no doubt about it. But even aside from the eye injury, I felt that Joyce was shaken up by a couple of Zhilei Zhang's punches. Certainly the most distress I've seen Joyce in his pro career. And yeah, you look at that first fight back, you know, for me, Zhilei Zhang was winning. He was winning most of the rounds. He was landing the better shots, the more hurtful shots. It's a lot for Joyce to come back from, but I'm actually really looking forward to this fight. Now, I've been accused recently, can you believe it, of being negative, of not having a good word to say about anybody. Well, I like these two guys. I think both guys are fun heavyweights. Both guys have unique styles. Joyce has that attritional type of style. He can throw a lot of punches. He can walk you down. He can grind you down with a jab. He takes risks. He's quite aggressive for the most part. He's got a good style. And, you know, Zhilei Zhang is a sharp puncher. Deceptively quick for a man of his size and a man of his age. He fires that left hand really effectively, almost sniper-like. It's quick, it's accurate, it's powerful, and he can use that shot, or he can set it up in a variety of different ways. He can do it behind a regular jab, a pouring jab, a feint jab. He can also lead with that straight left hand, especially as a counter. That straight left hand of Zhilei Zhang is sharp, it's accurate, it's powerful like I said, and it's got different looks to it as well. Plus he's got a good right hook. He can actually throw combinations as well, Zhilei Zhang, when he wants to. And when he does, they are surprisingly quick. I'm not sure how this rematch goes. One thing I will say, and I've said this in streams ad nauseum leading up to this fight. For me, one of the mistakes that Joyce made first time around, and nobody really spoke about it, and maybe that's because people don't agree, but one of the mistakes I felt Joyce made in that first fight was coming in too light. He weighed in at 256 pounds. Bear in mind, the fight prior to that, he fought Joseph Parker, and he was 271 pounds. I know Joyce's weight has fluctuated a little bit, but for me, Joyce isn't that type of guy. Even when he looks a bit fleshy, it doesn't seem to affect his work rate, or how he moves, or how he throws punches. He can carry a bit of extra weight, no trouble. And against a guy like Zhilei Zhang, who's a hard puncher, who's solid himself, I think that extra weight could actually help him. I think he went into that first fight losing weight to try and basically use his feet and stay agile on his feet, boxing around Zhilei Zhang, but I don't think it really helped his durability or his ability to absorb shots. I would like to see Joyce pack a bit more weight on for this rematch, and quite frankly change the game plan. Instead of that kind of like extended lead hand with a porous guard, I want to see Joyce box with a high guard in this fight. You know, playing the battle of lead hand control with Zhilei Zhang the way he was doing first time around obviously is very risky, as we saw. Zhilei Zhang was just able to beat him to the punch when Joe was trying to go jab for jab, or when he was trying to box with Zhilei Zhang. So for me, I think Joyce in this fight needs to adopt a high guard and ultimately try to block the majority of the straight left hands that way, and also primarily box while moving to his left to try and stay away from the straight left hand. Now, I know that Zhilei Zhang has a good right hook, as we saw in the first fight, but I feel the straight left hand is his danger punch, to be honest. I feel the straight left hand's the danger punch. I want to see Joyce adopt a different defense in this fight, primarily using the high guard, again circling out to his left, trying to evade that straight left hand, and just pick his moments early on. Don't get overzealous, don't get over greedy, certainly don't reach in from the outside like he was doing first time around, especially with that jab to the body, which is a shot that Joyce likes to throw a lot, but when he throws it sometimes he's guilty of really leaning in and leaving his head on the line. That's a perfect target for a straight left hand. So I would ignore that early on. I would be jabbing at Zhilei Zhang's guard, at his head, etc. Just being really selective when he picks his moments from the outside. And when these two guys fall into the clinch, if I was Joyce, I would try to be making a fight of it early on in the clinch. Try to test Zhilei Zhang's strength and his gas tank. One criticism I have in regards to Zhilei Zhang, I think he's got good skills, but his gas tank does leave a lot to be desired. Obviously, we can go back to the Jerry Forrest fight. Now, I know there was allegedly something wrong with him in that fight, but he's still gassed. And even in the Filip Hrgović fight, which I felt he won, I felt he let Hrgović back into that fight towards the end. His output really dropped. Really dropped. So if I'm Joyce, I would be waiting until that fight gets to the clinch before I try and do some work. In the clinch, Joyce is actually quite good. He can get a free hand. He can he's kind of crafty on the inside like that. I think he needs to really make the most of those moments. Don't use the clinch to rest and reset. Use it to try and bully Zhilei Zhang physically. Use it to try and get a free hand. Fighting on the inside, but not in the clinch, against Zhilei Zhang could be dangerous because Zhang has a short right hook and he's got a good uppercut as well. So fighting like in a phone box against Zhilei Zhang, not in the clinch, could be dangerous. But while he's in the clinch, I think Joyce needs to try and work. He needs to try and work and give Zhilei Zhang something to think about mentally and physically. And ultimately for me, I think Joyce in this fight needs to play the long game. Again, can't get overzealous too early on and sustain punishments, sustain big shots where he lets Zhilei Zhang cause some damage and pick up a head of steam. I think he needs to start the fight cautiously, even if that means he may lose a couple of rounds, 2 or 3 rounds. And I think in the second half of this fight is when Joyce should really start to maybe try to get some forward momentum behind the high guard, where he's then trying to essentially walk down Zhilei Zhang and force Zhilei Zhang backwards, make him fight off the back foot, put some pressure on him, you know, then start to dig to that body, then start reverting back to that typical Joyce style, but just by using the high guard. I just don't think he can afford to do that too early on. I would wait it out, try to absorb the storm early on, and then go for it in the second half of this fight. Try to take advantage of Zhilei Zhang's, I would say, questionable gas tank. One thing we know about Joe, he can throw punches for days. He can do it round by round, even late in fights. So yeah, I would try to hold fire and then apply pressure in the second half. As for Zhilei Zhang, I mean, listen, he's going to come into this fight with all the confidence in the world. based on that first fight. Ultimately, he can't get overconfident. I think one of the things that Zhilei Zhang should have worked on in this camp is pure cardio, you know, pure strength and conditioning, to be able to go the rounds better, because, you know, if this fight does drift later, you may favour Joyce because of Joyce's gas tank. Joyce can fight in those type of fights, we've seen it, whereas Zhilei Zhang hasn't really always shone in those moments. So I hope Zhilei Zhang has worked on his cardio, his conditioning, going into this fight. But ultimately, you know, Zhilei Zhang has very good underrated boxing skills, and he needs to build upon what he was doing first time around, you know, be active with the jab, which he was doing, vary the jab, which he was doing. He was throwing a single, a double jab, feint, straight left hand, feint, jab, straight left hand, etc. He needs to be doing that all the same. I felt his lead hand to control in the last fight was very good. He needs to do that again against Joyce. Try to divert Joe's lead hand and make space for the straight left hand. If Joyce is cautious early on, we know Joe's going to be careful of the straight left hand, which may mean he may circle away from it or try to. That's where the right hook needs to come into play of Zhilei Zhang. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, what can I say to Zhilei Zhang? He won the first fight, right? And he won it. He was always in control, for my money. So yeah, for me, for Zhilei Zhang, all he really needs to do, or what he should really focus on, is cardio, conditioning, be fitter, you know? Be able to maintain that work rate for a longer duration of time. But regardless, I know how the first fight went, I get it, but I still have a real hard time picking a winner for this fight. So I'm not going to do it now. If I make one, it will be literally the night before the fight or morning of the fight, because I kind of want to see the weigh-in. I kind of want to see what weight Joyce turns up at for this fight. I think that's going to be important, I really do. But this fight to me is fascinating. I am looking forward to it. By the way, I haven't mentioned it. It goes down on the 23rd of July and it takes place at Wembley Arena in London. Also televised on TNT Sports in the UK, formerly BT Sports, and I believe ESPN in the United States. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this fight. I like both guys. I like both guys' style. I think they're no-nonsense characters, which I like. And yeah, I'm expecting a good fight. I'm certainly expecting a more competitive fight than first time around, regardless of who wins. Anyway, share your thoughts below. It's been your guy Delboy. Peace.